P1 May 2022. Surah Al-Alaq, 96:1-5. A. Theme. These 5 verses of Surah Iqra Al-Alaq are the first ever revelation that the Prophet received in the cave Hira in Ramadan 610 AD. The remaining 6 verses were revealed later when the Prophet began to offer regular prayer in the precincts of the Kaaba. The command of read in the name of your Lord, in the first verse means the Prophet was already familiar with one supreme God. The word alaq was traditionally translated as a clot of congealed blood. In modern times it refers to the primary state of embryo that resembles a leech. The next verses mention God's power to create humans from a humble origin and mature them to acquire worldly knowledge by using the pen. The ability to read and write shaped human intellectual evolution over the ages. The last verse points to God's will to grant humans spiritual knowledge through divine revelation as and when it was required for humans. Surah Al-Zilzal, 99. A. Theme. Many commentators believe it to be a late Makkan surah, but some others regard it an early Madnian surah. The surah focuses on 3 main aspects of the end of time. First, it alerts humans about the initial horrible signs of the beginning of the Day of Judgment. They include the terrible convulsions the earth will experience. The earth will throw up all its contents. Another Quranic verse mentions the same as, and when the earth is flattened and casts forth what is within it. 84:3-4, Al-Inshikak. Secondly, it informs humans about the earth bearing witness to all their deeds, much to their surprise. Humans will be shocked and distressed to see all this, as they had never imagined anything like this. Finally, it presents the scene of the divine court where all will be categorized according to their good and evil deeds under the immaculate justice and power of God. The smallest possible deeds will be rewarded by God as He has arranged for the recording of each and every action of humans. Al-An'am, 6:101-103. A. Theme. The 3 verses are part of Surah Al-An'am, a late Makkan surah. Theme of the verses is God's absolute uniqueness. They were revealed to prepare the Muslims to interact with the Christians and Jews living in Medina who had corrupted the belief of Tawhid. The passage begins with the word, Badi, that refers to God's unique power to create anything out of nothing. He only commands be and it so happens. It proceeds by targeting any false belief of God having a son or a consort because He is beyond any such human needs or relationship. The next verse stresses on God being the sole creator and having power to dispose of all affairs. These unmatchable attributes convince the Muslims to worship none but Him. Verse 103 states God's absolutely sublime nature that refers to human inability to conceptualize Him in any way. However, God has perfect knowledge of all His created world. This is endorsed by another Quranic verse that says, "For God is He who understands the finest mysteries." 22 hours 63 minutes, Al-Hajj. B. Importance of the theme. These verses teach Muslims to acknowledge God's favors of creating humans from a low origin and then making them distinct from all other creatures by way of gaining knowledge. The gift of knowledge is so supreme that God commanded the angels to bow down before Adam because he was made superior due to the knowledge granted to him by God. According to many ahadith, pen was among the first ever creations of God. The Quran, at another place, endorses the superiority of humans in these words, "We have indeed created man in the best of molds." 95:4, Al-Tin. The passage instructs Muslims to remember that God alone blessed them in multiple ways, and so, they should worship and be grateful to Him. Muslims, thus, are encouraged to keep their superior status over other creatures by acquiring knowledge both worldly and religious. This enables them to achieve success in this world and the hereafter. B. Importance of the theme. This surah strengthens Muslims' belief in God's power to bring an end to time, and inculcates a genuine fear of accountability before Him. The tone and content of the surah have a strong impact on the Muslims. By understanding its message, the Muslims realize the worthlessness of this world, and the value of true and eternal world of the hereafter. This, in turn, will convince them to obey God's commands and not commit sins. If a believer has a true belief in the hereafter, he will not lose hope if he fails to get justice in this world. This belief will encourage him to avoid all possible evils. Moreover, he will try to live a righteous life because God promises greater rewards for good deeds. This Quranic verse will keep his hope alive. Surely God does not do injustice to the weight of an atom, and if it is a good deed he multiplies it. 440, Al-Nisa. B. Importance of the theme. This passage helps Muslims refine their belief of Tawhid in terms of God's unique nature and powers. Its main objective is to emphasize on monotheism and exclusive divine powers as against polytheism and paganism. Muslims are taught to believe in God's absolute oneness that had been corrupted by the misguided communities repeatedly in the past. Thus it removes any trace of confusion about God's existence from the hearts of Muslims. Moreover, they develop a sense of God's omniscience that helps them follow the right path. At another place the Quran reminds the same as, "And he is with you wheresoever you are." 57-4, Al-Hadid. It, therefore, teaches them about their limitations regarding God's personification and configuration. Thus they refrain from committing any form of shirk. According to the Mufassirin commentators of Quran, when this surah was being revealed 70,000 angels were assigned to accompany it. Therefore its recitation has a strong enlightening impact on the hearts of Muslims as they remain away from satanic misguidance. 2 Quetzales, A. Write about the Quran and Sunnah and how they are used with ijma in Islamic law. 10. B. How has the Quran, as a primary source of law, helped to unify Muslims over time? 4. ANS, A. There are 4 sources of legal thinking law making in Islam. They include the Quran, the Sunnah Hadith, Ijma consensus and Shia's analogy. The Quran and Sunnah Hadith are collectively called the primary sources asl of Islamic legal thinking. The Quran is the fundamental and most supreme source of legal thinking, and the other sources are dependent on it. Since its originality has been guaranteed by God, the Quranic rulings cannot be changed, questioned or contradicted by the other 3 sources. Usually, the Quran provides fundamental rules of lawmaking, and Sunnah Hadith provides the details of these rules. It, therefore, commands, and obey God, and obey the Messenger. 459, Al-Nisa. Similarly, the Prophet elaborated the importance of the Quran and Sunnah as, "I have been given the Quran and something similar to it." So, the Hadiths are intimately linked with the Quran. As a rule, Quran and Sunnah cannot contradict each other. Instead, Sunnah supports the Quran either by fully interpreting its teachings or by supplementing them. For example, the Quran commands Muslims to establish salat and pay zakat. The Sunnah provides full details about the format of salat and the rate of payment of zakat. Similarly, the Quran declares drinking wine as an act of Satan's handiwork, but does not mention any punishment for this. The Prophet prescribed 40 stripes lashes for a person found guilty of drinking. Ijma is the 3rd source of Islamic legal thinking, and is used when the primary sources, Quran and Sunnah Hadith, do not provide a direct solution answer to a new situation. Literal meaning of ijma is uniting, gathering or agreeing. In Islamic Sharia it means consensus of Muslims, companions of the Prophet, Muslim scholarly community or the whole Muslim Ummah, on a new challenging issue about which primary sources are silent. Both primary sources asl approve the use of ijma. The Quran says, "Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know." 1643, Al-Nahol. Here authority means scholarly or legislative body that is responsible for making laws. The Prophet permitted its use by saying, "My community will never unite in error." Thus he guaranteed the success of combined efforts in finding solutions to new challenges. There are many examples that show the relationship between Quran and ijma. The Quran says, "God commands you regarding your children, the share of the male will be twice that of the female. If you leave 2 or more females, their share is 2/3 of the estate. But if there is only one female, her share will be 1/2. 411, Al-Nisa. This verse does not mention the transgender children. Legal experts have unanimously agreed that the share of a transgender will be determined by the dominance of sex characteristics. If there are more male characteristics, the share will be that of sons. Otherwise, the share will be that of daughters. The issue of the IVF, in vitro fertilization, or the test tube baby is a modern challenge faced by the Muslim jurists. Islam does not allow any sperm donation by a man to a woman other than his wife, as it will be an act of indirect adultery which is condemned by the Quran. Nor come near adultery, for it is a shameful deed and an evil opening the road to other evils like an illegitimate child. 1732, Al-Isra, all Muslim jurists, therefore, allow an IVF, in vitro fertilization, procedure for only the married childless couples. Likewise, there are many examples that illustrate the relation between hadith and ijma. On reaching Medina, the Prophet accepted the idea of azan that was proposed by Hazrat Umar and Hazrat Abdullah bin Zayd. The first two caliphs continued to follow one azan for daily prayers, including the Friday prayer. During the caliphate of Hazrat Uthman, it was reported that many Muslims had started missing the Friday prayer as they could not hear the azan in the hustle and bustle of markets in Medina. He consulted his advisors and accepted the idea of one additional azan, the first azan that is delivered nowadays. During the caliphate of Hazrat Abu Bakr, hundreds of Hufaz memorizers of the Quran were killed. All Muslims reached a consensus that the Quran should be compiled. The Prophet instructed about congregational prayers: straighten your rows, stand shoulder to shoulder, be soft upon your brother and fill the gaps, because the devil enters through the gaps like the small lambs. However, Muslims in 2020-21 are allowed by legal experts to observe social distancing in the mosques due to the highly contagious disease COVID-19. B. Muslims throughout the world have always believed in Quran being the last divinely revealed book. There is universal consensus about each and every verse being the same as was revealed on the Prophet. This belief is based on the divine guarantee of protecting the Quran against any degree of corruption. 15:9, Al-Hijr. The Quran is the basis of belief and action in Islam. Moreover, it is the foremost source of Islamic legislation, and its basic teachings are to be followed till the end of time, irrespective of an ever-changing world. All sects of Islam and the Muslims belonging to various cultures and countries are agreed that Quran is the ultimate source of guidance and the strongest unifying force for them. The Quran, therefore, instructs them, and hold fast the rope of God, and do not be divided. 3:103, Ali Imran. 3 Quetzales, A. Write an account of the Prophet Muhammad's life from his birth until he received revelation. 10. B. The Prophet, Pu, was an orphan and raised by many people. How did this prepare him for prophethood? 4. Ans. A. The Holy Prophet was born an orphan child of Hazrat Amina bint Wahab and Abdullah bin Abdul Muttalib in 570 AD. He was named Muhammad by his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, Shayba, while Amina named him Ahmed. Hazrat Muhammad belonged to the Banu Hashim clan of the Quraysh. At the time of his birth, 14 minarets of the Persian royal palace were reported to have fallen, and the fire in the temples went out. Soon after his birth, Thuwabiya, a slave girl of Abu Lahab, suckled him for a few days. Later, according to the tradition of the time, he was given in the nursing care of Halima, a Bedouin woman from Banu Asad clan of Hawazin tribe. He had one foster brother, Abdullah, and 3 foster sisters, Anisa, Hudayfa and Al-Shama. He was weaned at the age of 2 and Halima took him back to his mother. However, she requested Amina to let baby Muhammad stay with her for some more years. In fact, Halima, in addition to the fear of the plague, wanted the blessings that the Prophet had brought to continue. Her livestock became active and productive. Amina allowed her to take back Muhammad. Several months later, a mysterious incident took place. Halima's son told her that 2 men in shining white garments took hold of Hazrat Muhammad and cut open his chest. They removed his heart, cleaned away a black clot and washed his heart and chest in pure snow from a golden platter. Halima rushed to look for young Muhammad. She found him a good condition though a bit pale. She was shocked by this incident and returned Hazrat Muhammad to his mother when he was about 6. His mother lived with him for some months only. She took him visit his father's grave in Yathrib and, On her way back she fell ill and died, at Abwa, in 576 AD. Their slave girl, Baraka, brought him back to Abdul al-Muttalib in Mecca. Then he went in the custody of his grandfather, who was assisted by his slave girl, Ayman. He often took the Prophet to the Kaaba and Daru al-Nadwa, where the senior tribal chiefs discussed various important matters. Abdul al-Muttalib died in 578 AD and gave Hazrat Muhammad in care of Abu Talib. Abu Talib treated the Prophet like his son, and also provided him tribal protection from 578 to 619 AD, till his death. By the age of 12 he began to accompany Abu Talib in his trade visits to Syria. This gave him opportunity to visit important sites related to Judaism and Christianity. In one such visit, a Christian monk, Barira, in Syria, recognized him as the last messenger of God. He had read about the signs of the last prophet of God in the ancient scripts. He invited the caravan on a dinner, and later, he asked the Prophet to take off his shirt and then closely observed the seal of prophethood, a birthmark between his shoulders. He then warned Abu Talib about the Jewish threat to Hazrat Muhammad. When he was 15, the Harb al-Fijar, a sacrilegious war, broke out between the Quraysh and Hawazin tribes. It started in one of the 4 sacred months, Rajab, Zil-Quad, Zil-Hajj and Muharram, in which violence was forbidden. The war caused huge bloodshed of the poor. The Prophet only picked arrows during the war. After the war, tribal chiefs agreed to sign a peace treaty that became known as the Hilfu el-Fuzul. All the tribal chiefs took an oath of protecting the poor and preventing bloodshed. The Prophet would later proudly exclaim, "I was present in the house of Abdullah bin Judan at so excellent a pact that I would not exchange my part in it for a herd of red camels." Soon, leaving shepherdhood, the Prophet turned to trade, and established his repute as Al-Sadiq, the truthful, and Al-Amin, the trustworthy. People would entrust him their belongings without any fear. A rich merchant widow of Makkah, Hazrat Khadijah, hired him as her trading agent. Impressed by his honesty, she proposed him, and Abu Talib accepted it. The marriage was conducted by Abu Talib, in the presence of other uncles of the Prophet, who was 25, and Khadijah 40 at that time. The marriage improved his financial status considerably. When the Holy Prophet was 35, he played an important role in the rebuilding of the Kaaba. A dispute arose at the time of fixing al-Hajar al-Aswad. Every tribal chief wanted to earn that honor. Abu Umayyah, an old Makkan leader, proposed, "Let the first man who enters the mosque arbitrate between you." The Prophet entered the mosque first the next morning. He resolved the issue quite intelligently by spreading a sheet on the ground and placing the stone on it. He asked the chiefs to hold the sheet from all sides and take it to the point of fixing the stone. He then lifted the stone and placed it at its proper place. At 40, he began to isolate himself from the active Makkan life and retire to the cave Hira, where he was formally granted prophethood in Ramadan, 610 AD, when Angel Jibril brought first revelation, 96:1-5. B. The Prophet's upbringing in a desert area strengthened his physique, and this enabled him to withstand difficulties and persecutions that he would face during his prophetic mission. He learned the purest Arabic, as it was the mark of identity of the Banu Asad. Thus, despite being an unlettered man, he emerged as a strongly convincing preacher. By attending the meetings at the Daru Nadwa, he was able to observe the issues and policies of the priest community of Makkah. He would point to their corruptions while inviting to Islam in future. He learned various skills as shepherd and trader so that he could address the people of different socio-economic groups. His trade visits to remote areas made him familiar with a variety of cultures and communities. He came to know about the mindset and thinking of the people, following different religions. He saw the clever tactics and malpractices of the Arab and non-Arab nations. 4 Quetzales, A. Describe the Prophet's pilgrimage in the final year of his life and his farewell sermon. 10. B. In your opinion, what was the most important teaching from the farewell sermon? Give reasons to support your answer. 4. ANS, A. Last year of the life of the Prophet, 631 to 632 AD or 10 AH 11 AH, was marked by a number of important events, the most important being his farewell pilgrimage and sermon. During the last days of Dhul Qa'dah, 10 AH, the Prophet asked his companions to prepare for the Hajj. On 25th Dhul Qa'dah, he explained the Hajj rituals after Zuhr prayer and left for Makkah with 90,000 followers, all reciting the Talbiyah, expression of submission to God. The Prophet rode his camel Kaswa and reached Makkah on 4th Dhul Hajj. Reaching close to the Kaaba, he made a supplication and then entered the sacred mosque to perform the tawaf of the Kaaba and the sa'i between the Safa and Marwa hills. On 8th Dhul Hajj, the day of Tarwiyah, he left for Mina and spent night there. Here he received the last complete surah of the Quran, Surah 110, Al-Nasr, the Help. Next morning he reached Arafat, where he observed the Wukuf stay on 9th Dhul Hajj from Zuhr to Maghrib. Here he delivered the historic sermon from the Mount of Mercy. He addressed around 120,000 pilgrims that had come from all parts of Arabia and told them it might be his last address to them. O people! Listen to my words, for I don't know whether, after this year, I shall be amongst you again. He highlighted the importance of the Quran and Sunnah for the guidance of Muslims by saying, I leave behind me two things, the Quran and the Sunnah, and if you follow these, you will never go astray. He reminded them that all humans would stand accountable before God on the Day of Judgment, and so, they should follow the right path. He affirmed that he was the last messenger and there would be no prophet or apostle after him and no new religion would be revealed. The Prophet stressed on the security of life, property and honor of every Muslim by saying, just as you regard this month, this day, this city as sacred, so regard the life and property of every Muslim as a sacred trust. He summed up the importance of the pillars of Islam by enjoining the Muslims, worship God, say your 5 daily prayers, fast in Ramadan and give your wealth in zakat. Perform Hajj if you can afford it. Similarly, he emphasized on the rights of women and slaves in a Muslim society and instructed his followers to treat both kindly. He said, it is true that you have certain rights regarding you women, but they also have rights over you. Treat your women well and be kind to them. Regarding the rights of slaves, he said, feed your slaves such food as you eat, and clothe them with what you wear. This way he ordered to fulfill the basic needs of slaves so that the concept of slavery underwent a revolutionary change in an Islamic state. The Prophet also reiterated abolition of usury riba and strictly forbade his followers from this practice of exploiting the weak. He categorically declared, all interest obligations shall henceforth be waived. He then announced waiving of interest by giving named examples. Finally, he made God witness and asked all to convey his message to all those who could not attend his sermon. Right then he received the last revelation, this day have I perfected your religion for you, completed my favor upon you and have chosen for you Islam as your religion, 5:3, Al-Maidah. Hazrat Bilal delivered the adhan, and he then offered Jurain, combining Zuhr and Asr, prayers. At sunset, he left for Muzdalifah, with Usama bin Zayd sitting behind him. There he offered the Maghribain, combined Maghrib with Isha, and spent night. After the Fajr prayer, he came to the Mashar al-Haram, faced the Qibla and prayed to God. Before sunrise, he moved to Mina to perform Rumi of Jamara-i-Aqaba. Soon Hazrat Ali joined him from Yemen. Then he sacrificed 63 camels, one for each year of his life. Then he proceeded to Makkah to perform Tawaf-i-Ziyarah as the last farz obligatory ritual of Hajj. He was back to Mina the same day to spend 3 days Imul Tashrik and perform Rumi of all 3 Jamarat till 12th Dhul Hajj. Here he delivered another speech about the teachings of Islam. Many sources mention that the Prophet had performed Tawaf-i-Wida as the last ritual, on 13th Dhul Hajj. Hence, he demonstrated the complete method of Hajj. After completing his Hajj, the Prophet started his journey for Medina. B. The Prophet strictly forbade the practice of riba usury as it is aimed at exploiting the weak and the poor. In this, the moneylender always remains stronger by receiving extra amount as interest. The borrower, on the other hand, may become poorer, and may not be able to repay the loan with the interest money imposed on him. Islam provides such alternatives to riba-based financial transactions as the interest-free loan Qarz-e Hasana and charity. It also encourages Muslims to follow the economic models of mudaba and musharaka. In theses, a joint investment is made between business partners who agree on sharing profit and loss. Thus there are no chances of forcing others to return loan with an extra amount. Muslim countries should adopt these Islamic financial teachings and abandon interest-based banking. The Quran promises success of Islamic banking. God has made interest fruitless and charity fruitful. 2:276, Al-Baqarah. 5 Quetzales, A. Write about the various tasks performed by some of the Prophet's companions as his scribes. B. What are the benefits of the Quran being available to everyone on the Internet? ANS, A. Since the Prophet was an unlettered man, he used to dictate the Quranic revelations as and when they were received by him. He was assisted by a team of about 40 renowned companions who acted as his scribes. There were various types of scribes who worked as secretaries of the Prophet. Some of them were official scribes who wrote letters, treaties, and public contracts on behalf of the Prophet. Hazrat Ali, Ubay bin Ka'ab and Zayd bin Thabit were prominent among this group. Hazrat Ali wrote down the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, and Hazrat Ubay wrote letters of invitation of Islam to many non-Muslim rulers in 7 AH. The Prophet instructed Zayd bin Thabit to learn Hebrew in order to respond to the Jews. Many companions emerged as scribes of hadith. They were Hazrat Umar, Uthman, and Abdullah bin Amr bin Al-As besides others. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Amr ibn Al-As sought the Prophet's special permission by asking, "May I write down everything I hear from you in the states of contentment and anger?" He replied, "Yes, for I speak nothing but the truth." The most important scribes were those who used to write the Quranic revelations. They wrote down the verses on various objects such as parchments, flat bones of camels, dried palm leaves, stone slabs and leather sheets. They were always alert and eager to note down the verses as they never knew when they would be revealed. Many of them learned the Quran by heart. They were honored to introduce this noble tradition unique among Muslims. Their memorized versions were used to verify the written copies that were prepared after the Prophet's death. Hazrat Ubay bin Ka'ab was not only a Hafiz but also kept his personal copy of the Quran. Hazrat Abdullah bin Mas'ud was a learned man and was a prominent reciter of the Quran. The Prophet admired his talent by saying, "Whoever wants to read the Quran as fresh as when it was revealed, then let him read according to the recitation of Abdullah bin Mas'ud." His importance as a scribe can further be seen in his own statement, "By him besides whom there is no God, no verse of the book has been revealed without my knowing where it was revealed and the circumstances of its revelation." Hazrat Zayd bin Thabit is regarded as the most important scribe of the Quran. He reported, "We used to record the Quran from parchments in the presence of the Messenger of God." He further stated his closeness to the Prophet as a scribe on other occasions, too. Once he said, when the revelation came to him, he felt intense heat and drops of perspiration used to roll down his body like pearls. When this state was over, I used to fetch a shoulder bone or a piece of something else. He used to go on dictating and I used to write it down. When I finished writing, the sheer weight of transcription gave me the feeling that my leg would break and I would not be able to walk anymore. When I finished writing, he would say, "Read," and I would read it back to him. If there was an omission or error, he used to correct it and then let it be brought before the people. The Prophet used to instruct the scribes about the sequence in which the revealed verses were to be placed in a particular surah. In this manner, the Prophet arranged the text of the Quran in a systematic order till the end of the chain of revelations. B. Availability of the Quran on the Internet has increased its accessibility significantly. Both Muslims and non-Muslims can now read the Quran and commentaries tafsirs on it written by various scholars. Similarly, its translations in various languages are available on the Internet. The Quran, thus, can be carried anywhere quite easily without any fear of showing disrespect to it. One can find any relevant surah or verse as and when required. Muslims can recite it comfortably during air or land journey in order to remember God. Those who were unable to read can listen to the recitation of the Quran and strengthen their bond with it. The value of such bondage has been highlighted by the Prophet as, He who studies the Quran is like the owner of tethered camels. If he attends to them, he will keep hold of them, but if he lets them loose, they will go away.